is Sarah McCLEAN-ORSBORNE. I am a New Zealand-born Samoan. I was born in Auckland, but we moved back to Samoa in 2000, where I grew up in Mulewhenua. My mum hails from the villages of Tapatapaʻo, Momoa and Papasatawa, but I call Mulewhenua home. I have a variety of different things that I do, as all good PhD students have. So when I'm not doing my PhD, I am a graduate teaching assistant for Pacific Studies at the University of Auckland, but I'm also working as a mates and dates facilitator for Nest Consulting. So I go to high schools and talk to young people about healthy relationships. My survey is for Samoan women, based wherever you are in the world. So it doesn't have to be in Samoa, whether it be Pango or Western, or in New Zealand. So you can be as far as Alaska or in China or wherever. I just would like to hear Samoan women and their experiences about COVID-19, whether that is having contracted it or just being affected by COVID, be it having reduction of hours or having to live through lockdowns. And the reason for this is just the fact that this is something that's so unprecedented. None of us thought that 2020 would be the year that we're living in a global pandemic, but it's something that we're living in currently, and it's something that no doubt is going to have a ripple effect for years to come. And so by taking a look at our experiences, whether it be in the Pacific or further afield, having an understanding of how it's impacted our women and what has helped us get through it, could help us help service providers better their services, better their support, so that way they can do what we need them to do for us. I am hoping my big long-term goal or aims, ambitions for this, is that I'm hoping that I'll be able to create some resources, whether it be educational, service provider wise, and that can also go further afield than just the Pacific and New Zealand. So being able to equip our service providers with what our women need, and it could go over into other spaces of indigeneity, which is really important too. It's not often that we get the opportunity to voice what we need when we need it right now, and so this is something that will benefit our women regardless of where they're based. Originally, we were looking at Samoan women's experiences of depression, and the reason for that was my master's was looking at mental health service providers' perspectives of young Samoan women with depression, and that had a whole lot of topics that came up through that. So with that, a lot of our women had expressed that they had been sexually assaulted as children by family members or close acquaintances, but they weren't seeking help until they were 18 plus because their families minimized the harm that they had faced, but they were seeing it occur in younger generations, and they were wanting to nip that in the bud, and they were in a position to do so. So there were quite a few things that came about, and talking to service providers as well. I had a person in a DHV say that they knew sexual violence was a big issue in our community, but because it wasn't a sexy thing to talk about, it wasn't being addressed. And so that sparked quite a lot of alarm bells, because it's not just a mental health thing, it's a family relationship, te o lewa sort of aspect that we needed to look into. So I wanted to hear the voices of our Samoan women to see how we could engage them with help. But then when lockdown occurred, facing our own salient issues that we were, myself, my main supervisor, Jemima Tietiasith, who's also Samoan, we were discussing with my other supervisor, Professor Linda Nikora, about the struggles that we were having, and discussed, well, if this is what we're facing currently, what are the rest of our Samoan women facing, and how is this going to impact us? And so again, just realizing that this is something that there's not going to be a lot of research done around it, especially for our Pacific Samoan community. Why not myself, a Samoan woman, jump on that and start getting the ball rolling? I had a lady in her 80s respond to the survey. So it does relate back to family and environment, depending on how you want to answer the questions. I've tried to make it as streamlined as possible, so it is ticking some boxes in terms of how COVID has impacted our Samoan women positively. So there's tick boxes and an opportunity to explain a bit more if necessary. And then there's also a section about how COVID has impacted our women. And again, tick box, but then it does ask a question out of all the ways COVID has impacted them, what has been the most pressing factor, and exploring that in a bit more depth. It will be that link that our women can click onto. It will also be made available if anybody wants to email me, so I can send a PDF copy. If need be, I will snail mail it to anybody that would like that too. So I'm trying to make it as accessible as possible, but I do understand that not everyone will be able to access technology. So if anybody does have any concerns, they can email me at sarah.mclean@auckland.ac.nz, and we can find a way to work things out.
And there is a prize up for grabs to do the survey as well. Is that right, Sarah? Yeah, what is that?
So we do have a prize draw, and it is for Prezi cards. So that should also be able to be utilized by those also overseas, because it is a Visa debit card with amount loaded on there. So there's $100, $50 and $20 that will be drawn next year once the survey has closed. We will be closing it in November next year. So there is still plenty of time, but obviously the more voices we get, the sooner it just makes it a lot easier process. The greatest outcome for it would be to get an amazing amount of women to participate, so we have a stronger collective voice. So when I put together the data, being able to present it to people in positions of power, whether it be funders, service providers, or even the government, saying that this is what our Samoan women are saying, you need to listen to it, and being able to share that around the Pacific as well, just so that way we can empower our Samoan community, but also begin empowering our Pacifica women around the world to get the help that they need if they need it, or just be able to talk about things such as COVID or other things that have impacted them on a day-to-day basis. The big way that I was impacted by COVID was having to work from home, and that impacted me more so because of trying to teach our students online, putting quite a lot of my heart and soul to try and get them to engage, to try and help them get over the finish line in a space that for many of our Pacifica community aren't comfortable in, and also via a technology that doesn't engage relationships or relationality that we're used to. And so that was really hard for me because I was feeling quite disheartened by it, but also too at the same time, my husband was off from work and he wasn't sure about how his company was going to fare, whether he was going to lose his job because we didn't know what was going to happen. My dad also has an underlying heart condition and he was living with us at the time too. So just that uncertainty of, if I go out to the supermarket today, am I going to come across anybody who is infected, and am I going to be bringing that home to my dad, and how is that going to impact him? So even though COVID, we never contracted it, it was those sorts of things that came to mind. And I guess as well, we still have our family home in Samoa, and not being able to go back and access that, and also thinking with borders being shut, are they going to foreclose on our family home? What is going to happen in terms of getting our belongings if that's there? And just, so there's all these different things that normally we wouldn't have been worried about. And that's just my own experience. Some of the data that I have had from the stories our women have shared have been similar things in terms of loved ones have passed away overseas and they weren't able to get back to say goodbye or to farewell them. Others have had their jobs lost or hours cut, or even just having a lot more people at home and not being able to have that space for themselves. So it might not be as massive as losing your job or getting ill, but just because you didn't have that doesn't mean it's not worth sharing, because all of these things kind of show the inequities or disparities that we have in our community compared to those with more privilege, that they aren't worried about health issues or how they're going to pay bills. So just anything in terms of how it might have just put a pause on your life is what we're looking at.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Miss Sarah. And just to add on top of that, you know, a lot of our people as well don't have the modern technology like other people do. So even things as simple as I don't have Wi-Fi, I can't afford to have internet at home. Fill that survey out, ladies, because that really helps our service providers provide a better experience or make it more accessible to have free Wi-Fi in the homes, you know, sort of thing. Some people don't even have computers or phones, sort of thing, have no credit. So whatever it is, put it down on the survey because it really helps towards making a better service out there for our people. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Sarah is going to be coming back and having a full interview with us on what she's studied and what she's doing at the moment. We just thought we'll throw it out there, the survey, because we want as many women as possible to get on board and fill it out. We will have a link as well down the bottom on all our social media sites. So please, ladies, go ahead, fill it in and go in the drawer. Is there anything else you want to share there, Sarah?
No, aside from just thank you so much for taking the time to participate in my research. I know it can be quite daunting to share your experiences with a complete stranger, but I do hope in some ways it'll be cathartic or therapeutic or just to make a not so pleasant experience feel like an opportunity to make a change in the world. I know it sounds a bit cliche in that sense, but I do hope our women know that this isn't for nothing. This is hopefully to make a difference in the world that we're living in now. I am a